In the early hours of the suburban East Las Vegas, neighbors start to grow concerned about the sudden disappearance of a 68-year-old Monique Gilbertson, a vulnerable elderly woman who was living alone. But subsequently, that situation changed as she decided to help a homeless young man and accommodate him in her house. That's where the tragedy started unfolding. This offers a profound and disturbing look into the intersection of elder vulnerability, housing insecurity, and the escalating synthetic opioid crisis. This case, characterized by the discovery of a dissident within a kitchen appliance and the subsequent prosecution of her former house owner. Daniel Roush, also known as Jazlynn, serves as a critical point of analysis for forensic professionals, criminologists, and social policy analysts. The narrative of this event is not merely a chronicle of a singular crime, but a complex interplay of failed altruism, environmental degradation, and the lethal application of highly concentrated narcotics as a tool for residential seizure. The setting of this case is vital to understanding the dynamics at play. East Las Vegas is home to numerous mobile home communities that provide affordable housing for the city's aging population. These communities often function as microcosms of the broader urban challenges facing Clark County, including isolation among seniors and the encroachment of transient populations. Monique Gilbertson was a member of this demographic, living alone in a community characterized by its high density of elderly residents. Elderly individuals living in solo households often face challenges with maintenance, where the physical demands of property upkeep exceed their physical capabilities. This creates a vacuum, often filled by informal, unregulated labor or housing arrangements. Neighbors of Gilbertson articulated a pervasive sense of fear following the discovery of her remains, noting that the community felt targeted due to the high number of vulnerable solitary residents. This fear is rooted in the reality that the very kindness and openness required to maintain a home under such conditions can be weaponized by predatory actors. The fatal trajectory began not with a conflict, but with an act of charity. Monique Gilbertson encountered Daniel Roush, a 37-year-old man experiencing homelessness, at a local Home Depot. Locations in urban centers frequently serve as informal labor markets where individuals seeking work congregate. At the very beginning, the interaction between both of them transcended casual labor. So out of kindness, Gilbertson offered Roush a room in her mobile home in exchange for help around the house chores, because she's old and can't do much for herself. This room-for-work arrangement is a common strategy in the informal economy, yet it lacks the vetting and legal safeguards of a formal lease. For Gilbertson, it was a solution to her domestic maintenance needs. For Roush, it was an escape from the precarity of the streets. However, this asymmetric power dynamic, where the homeowner provides an essential life resource, shelter, to an individual with high levels of instability, is inherently volatile. The introduction of Roush into the Gilbertson household quickly moved from a functional assistance model to one of domestic friction. Within months of the initial meeting, the arrangement began to deteriorate. Forensic investigators who eventually processed the scene described a residence that had undergone a total systemic collapse. The transition from a cared-for home to a site of forensic interest was marked by severe environmental degradation. Police reports detailed a house filled with trash and dog feces, indicating that the basic standards of hygiene and domestic order had been abandoned. The presence of multiple bird cages in the living room provides a poignant contrast to the squalor. Gilbertson was known to keep birds, a hobby that requires meticulous care and a stable environment. The fact that these cages remained amidst the trash and narcotics paraphernalia suggests that Gilbertson's influence over her own home had been neutralized long before her physical death was discovered. This environmental takeover is a hallmark of predatory squatter behavior, where the original occupant's lifestyle is systematically erased and replaced by the habits of the interloper. The investigation revealed that the home had become a repository for a wide array of illicit substances. During the search, The Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department, LVMPD, recovered a significant cache of narcotics that pointed toward active distribution or high-volume consumption within the residence.
The presence of these drugs, specifically the stash mentioned in grand jury evidence, reinforces the prosecution's theory that Roush and his associates were not merely residents, but were using the home as a base of operations for criminal activity. The friction between Gilbertson and Roush centered on two primary issues: cleanliness and theft. Gilbertson grew increasingly disappointed with Roush's hygiene habits and began to suspect that Roush was stealing from her. In a community where resources are often fixed, such as Social Security or pensions, theft represents a significant threat to an elderly individual's stability. Roughly 2 weeks before she was reported missing, Gilbertson initiated a digital record of her intent to terminate the arrangement. Text messages recovered by investigators show Gilbertson definitively ending the residency, saying, "Good luck to you, I just can't live with anybody, I'm so sorry." She followed this with pointed questions about when Roush would collect his belongings. I'm sure the termination of that arrangement didn't sit well with Daniel Roush. This happened approximately late October and is identified as the lethal window. The prosecution argues that Roush probably started imagining going to the streets and face the fate of homelessness and the loss of the resources Gilbertson provided. Roush chose to eliminate the source of the eviction by killing Gilbertson so he could seize her home and her vehicle, probably to claim the ownership of all Gilbertson belongings. A theory of life takeover that forms the core of the murder charge. The most significant forensic finding in this case is the concentration of fentanyl found in Monique Gilbertson's system. Fentanyl is a synthetic opioid estimated to be 50 to 100 times more potent than morphine. In a clinical or recreational overdose, the amount found is typically just above the threshold of lethality. However, the toxicology report for Gilbertson revealed approximately 200 times the lethal dose for a human being. To understand the implications of this finding, one must analyze the pharmacological reality of such a dose. If a standard lethal dose, L, for an opioid-naive individual is roughly 2 milligrams, the amount administered to Gilbertson would be a 400 milligram dose of fentanyl is gargantuan. For comparison, a standard medical patch might deliver only 25 to 100 micrograms per hour. The administration of 400 milligrams is not a recreational accident. It is a pharmaceutical execution. This volume of the drug supports the Clark County District Attorney's allegation that Roush force-fed the victim to ensure immediate and irreversible death. This method of homicide, using the victim's own suspected or actual substance environment to mask a murder as an overdose, is a sophisticated and brutal tactic. Monique Gilbertson was last seen on October 22, 2024. Her absence was not noted by authorities until November 6th, when neighbors and family members tried reaching her on phone but failed. They called the requested a welfare check in her residence. This 2-week gap represents the dark period during which Roush and his wife, Gina Roush, allegedly lived in the home with Monique Gilbertson's dead body. When LVMPD officers arrived, they were met with a 15-minute attempt at deception by Daniel Roush. Standing at the front door, Roush claimed to be house-sitting, while Gilbertson was away dealing with an emergency. This narrative was an attempt to explain the continued occupation of the home and the use of Gilbertson's vehicle. Roush has practically attempted to deny the police entry into the house, which serves as a critical piece of evidence regarding his state of mind and attempt to conceal the crime. The officers were proactive and professionals. They insisted in entering the house. Upon gaining access into the house and searching the premises, officers discovered the body of Monique Gilbertson inside a locked freezer. The forensic description of the body, folded up or totally bent in half, indicates that the perpetrator exerted significant force to fit the adult victim into the freezer. The choice of a freezer as a concealment site is significant. In a forensic context, freezing a body, 1. suppresses the decompositional odors that would otherwise alert neighbors or visitors. 2. preserves the remains, potentially complicating the determination of the exact time of death. 3. acts as a psychological barrier, literally shelving the crime while the perpetrator continues to occupy the house. During the interrogation, Roush's subsequent admitted, "I put her in the icebox because I didn't know what to do," was framed as a panic response to an accidental overdose. However, the prosecution contrasts this claim of panic with the calculated 2-week occupation of the home and the massive dose of fentanyl found in the victim system. A Clark County grand jury returned a robust indictment against Daniel Roush, charging him with multiple felonies that reflect the diverse criminal aspects of the case. The use of the open murder charge in Nevada is significant, as it encompasses both first and second-degree murder, allowing a jury to determine the level of premeditation based on the evidence of the force-feeding and the life takeover motive. The role and indictment of Jazlynn Roush. While Daniel Roush is the primary suspect in the homicide, the presence and actions of his wife, Jazlynn Roush, indicate a collective effort to occupy the residence. Jazlynn Roush was indicted on multiple felonies, including burglary and drug possession. Her involvement suggests that the plan to take over Gilbertson's life was a joint effort. The fact that the couple was living together in a house where the owner was in the freezer speaks to a shared criminal intent and a profound lack of empathy. In criminology, the behavior of a suspect after the death of a victim is often as telling as the act itself. In the case of Daniel Roush, the choice to remain in the home, use the victim's car, and continue drug operations while the victim's body was stored in the kitchen is classified as callous persistence. This behavior undermines the panic defense. A person who panics after an accidental death typically flees or eventually seeks help. They do not typically move in and treat the crime scene as a permanent residence. The environmental state of the home, the trash, the feces, and the abandoned bird cages reflects the psychological state of the occupants. It indicates a prioritization of immediate narcotic gratification over all other concerns, including the fundamental human taboo of living with a corpse. This level of desensitization is frequently seen in advanced cases of synthetic opioid addiction, where the drive to maintain a trap environment overrides social and legal norms. The Monique Gilbertson case is a tragic case study, and it speaks a lot of volume that we should be careful about the kind of people we accommodate in our home. We need to apply safety precautions, so our kindness will not be used as a weapon of our destruction. It's really unfortunate that Gilbertson's attempt to solve her own maintenance issues and provide social aid to a homeless individual resulted in her death. This highlights several critical areas for policy review. 1. Senior support systems. There is a clear need for subsidized or regulated home maintenance programs for elderly individuals living alone. If Gilbertson had access to safe, vetted assistance for her home, the Home Depot meeting might never have occurred. 2. Informal residency risks. The case illustrates the extreme danger of informal housing arrangements. Without a legal lease or background check, homeowners are effectively inviting unknown risks into their private space. 3. Community vigilance. The neighbors' shock and subsequent fear indicate that while they were aware of the scary situation of living alone, they were not equipped to intervene on time or recognize the signs of an elderly takeover until it was too late. The story of Monique Gilbertson and Daniel Roush is one of opportunistic violence masked by the chaos of the opioid epidemic. The evidence, ranging from the definitive eviction text messages to the mathematically impossible accidental dose of fentanyl, points to a premeditated effort by Roush to secure a lifestyle he could not achieve through legal means. The macabre discovery in the freezer serves as a final, brutal punctuation mark on a relationship that began with a gesture of kindness and ended in a calculated act of murder. As the legal process against Daniel and Jazlynn Roush continues in the Nevada court system, the case remains a sobering reminder of the lethal intersection between social vulnerability and criminal desperation in the modern urban landscape. Thank you for watching this far. If you enjoy what I'm doing, please kindly subscribe to my channel, like, and comment your thoughts about this story